Can we believe what the Gospels say? Most of us have probably asked this. Why do we have four testimonies instead of one? And what are they worth? Following what we have just said, it will be easy to understand what follows. Not all the deeds and words of Jesus are found in the Gospel. In relating the words of Jesus, each evangelist expresses them in his own way and adapts them for the better understanding of his readers. The events are not always told in the order in which they took place, and things that Jesus said on different occasions can be mixed together in the same passage. This is not to say that we cannot believe the testimony of the evangelists. We are not given a photo, a recording of Jesus' words, but rather four different views that complement each other. Why worry if there are certain contradictions in details? If at the gate of Jericho there was one blind man or two, what difference does it make in the basic message? The unique place of the Gospels in literature. The Gospels are exceptional and unique work among the literary writings of all time. Any comparison with other writings of its time, Christian or otherwise, shows a tremendous contrast in the Gospels. Simplicity and the desire to be temperate in the other texts. What is marvelous, complex, and not down to earth? A modern philosopher, not a believer, wondered why there were not more miracles in the Gospels. The Gospels carry within them the guarantee of their own authenticity. Taking into account what was said in the previous paragraph, modern criticism has not been able to find falsehood in the Gospels, even though it has scrutinized them with a magnifying glass for more than a century. What is more, the Gospels leave us with a deep sense of meaningfulness each time we are capable of opening ourselves to them. Those who doubt. Still, those who question the testimony of the Gospels are many. At times, it is because they think they see contradictions in the Gospels more often, because it seems impossible for them to accept miracles. Even among believers who study the Gospels, some have reservations concerning the historical value of anything that could be termed a miracle in the literal sense. This may be due to the fact that they have been trained in a scientific culture which relies only on human resources in order to solve every problem. In a world that covers itself with insurance, little is expected from God, and God does not multiply miracles. They reason the following way. If I cannot now see anything similar to what happened in the Gospel, how am I to believe that such things happened even then? Everything might be different if they were involved in poor or persecuted Christian communities. There, they might witness the constant interventions of God for the benefit of those who can only hope in Him alone. Actually, in these communities, it is said if today God works such miracles, why would He not have performed them in the time of Jesus and by His order? In fact, it is impossible to study the Gospel impartially, as we would do with any ordinary book, for it questions all of our life and not merely our ideas on any point. If we share the same faith of the apostles, we should have no difficulty accepting the sacred books while remaining aware of the critical questions. But if we do not fulfill the conditions that would allow us to see God, We feel uneasy until we find some reason to reduce the Gospel's testimony to something which to us seems reasonable. That is to say, that it will not question our stance in life itself. That is why many persons, though they admire the Gospels and refuse to consider it a lie, search for 1,000 reasons to deny what seems shocking to them, its testimony of God made man, a God who moves around among people and who raises the dead. Some objections. Therefore, they especially cling to two main arguments. They say that the Gospels were written many years after the death of Jesus, when popular imagination had already placed a halo around him, and so they do not reveal the reality of Jesus to us, but rather the faith of the church in the first century. Let us remember what we said about the date when the Gospels were written. They also say that the Gospels were writings destined for the catechesis and teaching of Christians. The facts they relate are aimed at supporting what is taught. Hence, it is not important whether Jesus walked on the water or not. The episode was written to show that Jesus possessed divine power. But what about the apostles? They had been Jesus' witnesses, and their function was to remain his official witnesses within the church. They knew what had actually happened. Would they have remained silent while some were distorting the history of Jesus? The guarantee of the gospel is found in the very structure of the Catholic Church, which was never a group of spontaneous believers carried away by enthusiasm or opportunism. The Gospels came from the tradition of the apostles, and the church retained them because it recognized this tradition in them. In those very years and during the following century, other Gospels were written: the Gospel of Peter, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Nicodemus, the Proto Gospel of James. The Church, however, did not accept them because of the fantastic events recorded in them, or because of theological orientation which did not conform to the teaching received from the apostles.